Icarus is the best survival game I have played so far, and I've played a lot of survival games. Raft, Subnautica, Green Hell, Void Train, Winter Survival, Soul Mask Survival, Fountain of Youth, Smalland, Don't Starve, Nether, Stranded Deep, The Long Dark, The Forest, Breathedge, Valheim, Sunken Land, and many more. Icarus is the only one that hits all the right spots for me. It's realistic, but not so much that it's not fun. It's grindy, but the grind feels meaningful and is rewarded. The graphics look good, but not so much as to fry your GPU. There are plenty of systems you need to manage, but none of them make the game frustrating. You need food, but it's always available wherever you are. Also, you need food to stay alive, but your animals don't. So, you don't lose a mount just because you got absorbed by base building and didn't feed it. The storms are powerful and can wreck your base, even the trees that fall in heavy winds can do that. But repairing your structures doesn't cost you your hard-earned materials, and the storms don't just blow your home away. They leave a carcass of it that you can always simply repair, though you do lose the contents of your house if it gets to that stage. Still, you can protect your base from any storm by taking the time to build from stronger materials. There is sleep in the game, but you're not forced to sleep, it's only needed for getting a buff. You do get over-encumbered from carrying too much, but you can still move around, albeit slower, unless you also break a leg. And if you do break a leg from a fall, you just gather materials and make yourself a splint. There's many more examples of how the game provides you with an interesting challenge, but doesn't push it to make it frustrating like many other games do. So how come there's only 76% positive reviews on Steam? Well, after reading a lot of Steam reviews, I think most people dislike the game because they started off on the wrong foot. And the fact that the developers more or less drop you into the world without proper guidance doesn't help. See, Icarus has 3 game modes: Open World, Missions, and Outposts, and you can play any of them across 3 different worlds. In Outposts, you get a tiny map to practice on. You can't leave the designated area, the storms are mild, and all the resources respawn every time you reload the game. This is a creative mode of sorts. In Open World, you have a persistent map, handcrafted by the devs. You can build a permanent base, level up your character, and take on missions, but those missions often require long travel distances just to get started. In missions, you start completely from scratch, on the same maps as in the open world mode, with no base and no gear, except the gear that you buy in the exotic store. The upside of playing missions is that you spawn directly at the mission location. The downside is that every mission means building, regearing, and gathering resources all over again. Campaigns sit somewhere in between. They're like missions, but they permanently modify your open world. They introduce new crafting recipes, items, and weapons, modify the environment with new wildlife, and challenge you with powerful bosses. This is endgame content that is not recommended to begin unless you're already done with the missions, as it permanently adds new tougher animals that will attack you, and it requires a DLC. This is such a refreshing way to introduce new updates to the game, by the way, without making you restart the run, and I love it. All of the above modes, except campaigns, can be played at the same time, and you can switch between them from the in-game menu. But here's where things go wrong for new players. Most missions teach you something new about the game, and it can be hard to identify when the basic tutorial ends and you're ready to play on your own. So it's very easy to continue doing missions and spending 5 hours on each mission that rewards you with, say, 150 Ren, currency you can't really spend on anything meaningful at that stage. Also, the missions don't always tell you how exactly to reach the objective, so it's easy to get stuck. For example, in the mission called Homestead, you are supposed to build a home for yourself, but the game won't tell you the size of the home or the exact contents, and that to build the things it asks you for, you first have to reach level 10 and learn the decoration bench blueprint in the tech tree. So while stuck in the mission, you'll have to do things that you're not even required to do, just to level up. And all for nothing, because whatever you gather during a mission gets deleted when you finish it, unless it's something purchased from the exotic store. And there's many missions out there that can be like this. You see how it can be frustrating for a new player. Thankfully, everything that you do in the game, in any of the modes, levels up your character, which is persistent across game modes. If you've played extraction shooters like Deep Rock Galactic, you know exactly how it works. So there's the core problem. With game modes, players are pushed into one of 2 frustrating paths, either running huge distances in open world just to complete missions for small rewards, or constantly starting from scratch in missions and wasting time rebuilding early game bases. That's a fun challenge if you already know the game in and out, not so much if you're new. And then, the game's minor bugs can feel disproportionately noticeable. So how can you fully enjoy the game and not join the ranks of negative reviews? For me, the correct sequence to minimize frustration looks like this. Complete the first 2 missions, try out the Outpost mode for the first 15 levels or so, then switch to open world on the Olympus map with all the knowledge you gathered. Set up a sustainable base, level up your character, explore the surroundings, do the missions in your immediate vicinity. Invest in stamina and movement speed, get the movement speed module. Tame a fast mount like the Moa. Then, and only then, start running missions after preparing well with good armor, weapons, food, and a skilled mount, and don't go home until you absolutely have to. I could clear 3, 4, 5 missions per each expedition this way, and would be able to do more if I cared to set up camp along the way. The additional advantage of doing it this way is that you get to keep all the items and structures you build as part of your mission. Some of them can be very useful at your base. For example, Gatherer's backpack that you get during the early spelunking mission has been an indispensable resource in my playthrough that I carried well into the endgame. If you like, check out my videos here that will help you through the hardest parts of the game. Once you've collected enough Ren and exotics, start unlocking new gear in the workshop and experimenting with it, and only after you've got yourself some good equipment that persists through playthroughs, I would take on one of the DLC maps, a mission from scratch, or campaign. Now, DLCs are another sticking point that get mentioned a lot in reviews and spook people, but out of the 18 DLCs currently available, only 3 of them are actually meaningful content additions, these top 3. The Great Hunts campaigns adds campaigns as previously explained, and the other 2 add new maps to explore with new creatures and biomes. They're worth getting once you get to the endgame and want more content, but not having them does not impede your ability to enjoy the base game in any way. This DLC adds cats, dogs and horses as pets, but the base game already has a dog available, and if you're playing with friends, only one of them has to have the DLC for everyone to enjoy. All the other DLCs are just skins for home decorations, and Outposts are, well, you already know what they are. If you want to play multiplayer, you'll have to grab a friend, as there's no public servers available. So who's the game actually for? Will you love it as much as I do? You will, if you want to know what it means to build a house and get attached to it, since you'll never be able to afford to build one in real life. If you enjoy base building and slow, methodical, meaningful progression, where you try out each bench and item that you unlock along the way. The game's not a fast-paced shooter. Here, every bullet and arrow and hit has a weight and a cost to it. You don't just shell out hundreds of bullets into plastic enemies. That said, there's little variety in terms of enemies, and the constant wolf attacks do get old quickly. And yet, the world never feels stale. Even though you do mostly see the same plants and the same animals over and over again, they act in unexpected ways and don't seem to travel in some predefined path like they do in other games. They'll fight each other, get spooked by the storms, and if you leave a hunted animal on the ground, wolves or hyenas might claim it, leaving behind only bones. I do genuinely love this game. I loved it when I started it, and I loved returning to it after a long break. The game didn't punish me for having a life, and even after a pause I felt oriented. And for the past few months that I've been playing it, it's been scratching every itch that I didn't know I had. It gives me systems to engage with, problems to solve, and just enough pressure to keep things interesting, and it almost never feels unfair. When something goes wrong, it's usually because I made a bad call, not because the RNG decided to punish me arbitrarily. The game constantly asks you to think, plan, and adapt, instead of just suffering through frustrating mechanics for the sake of realism. There's rough weather, for example, that feels very real and immersive that you can prepare for by building a good shelter, building gliding rods, and crafting a firewalker, but none of that is available to you in the early game. So how do you deal with a flash storm? Well, you'll have to play to figure it out. Food, shelter, weather, injuries, and wildlife, they all matter in this game, but in a way that rewards planning, and it doesn't force you into reflexive panic when something goes wrong. You're always working towards something tangible. Better tools, stronger materials, upgrades, mounts, tech unlocks. The grind never feels like busy work because each step noticeably improves how you interact with the world. Leveling your character changes how you move through the world. Better stamina, faster speed, better tools, better machinery, all of it adds up in a way you can actually feel. Getting a fast mount changes how you approach exploration and missions. Having it die midway through changes it too. Getting a couple deep mining drills switches up your gameplay from being on a constant lookout for caves and ores and lets you focus on other things. Same with farming, ranching, beekeeping. Building a proper base isn't just cosmetic, it makes survival easier and more efficient. Nothing is wasted in this game, and you better hold on to that pile of dirt that you dug up when you got your first shovel, because it will certainly come in handy. You don't want to spend the time to dig it up again, and thankfully the game has ample storage in each bench and puts no restriction on using the benches as junk piles. Also, you never wander aimlessly in this game. Exploration is tied to missions, resources, biomes, and progression. There's usually a reason to go somewhere, and a reward for making the trip. This isn't a survival game that's trying to overwhelm you. It's one that trusts you to learn, experiment, and improve. And once you do, it rewards you with one of the most satisfying survival experiences I've ever had. Is it perfect? No. There's many things I'd change about the game to make experience smoother. For example, I don't understand why Moa can fight when it's wild but it'll take the beating and not fight back when you've tamed it. I don't understand why every shipment and landing pod in the game always lands where I requested, but once I die, I cannot choose where my landing pod will land and have to run across half of the map for my loot. Similarly, I would love to be able to hook my mount to a hitching post with one click of a button instead of taking the rope, putting it into the quick panel, taking it out, tying it to the mount, then finding the thin hitching post with your mouse and tying the mount to the post. Still, I have faith that devs will improve on these pain points as they have been doing for years now. Just look at this. There's an update every week, and there's new features and fixes coming out all the time. So expect that I will be making tons of content on ICARUS as time goes on. Make sure to check out my ICARUS playlist here and my other videos here. That's all I had for you today. Have a good one, and I'll go back to playing ICARUS, the only survival game that I feel like returning to again and again.